You know when you read a sentence and it just feels a little bit flat? Well, today we're diving into the secret ingredient that takes writing from just okay to absolutely fantastic: adverbs. Let's see exactly how they work. Take a look at this. The scientist worked. I mean, it's fine, it's a fact, it's clear, but it doesn't really give you much of a picture, does it? We know what happened, but we don't have the story.
Now watch what happens when we add just a couple of words. The scientist worked diligently yesterday in the lab. Bam! All of a sudden, you can see it. We know how they worked, when they worked, and where they worked. Those magic little words, diligently, yesterday, those are adverbs. And they just turned a boring fact into the beginning of a story. So let's get right to it. What even is an adverb? It might sound like a complicated grammar term, but I promise it's not. At its heart, an adverb is just a word that adds that extra splash of color and detail. Okay, so the official definition says an adverb's job is to modify, which is just a fancy way of saying it adds more information to other words. It can tell you more about a verb, which is an action word. It can describe an adjective. It can even describe another adverb. Its whole purpose is to give us the details. Let's see this in action. An adverb can describe a verb, right? So it tells us how she swims quickly. It can also amp up an adjective. He isn't just successful, he's very successful. And it can even boost another adverb. Teddy doesn't just swim quickly, he swims extremely quickly. See how each one just adds another layer of meaning? Now, even though adverbs have a few different jobs, most of them, the ones you'll see all the time, fall into three main groups that answer three very simple questions. And these are the questions. This is your key to understanding what most adverbs do. Whenever you see an action happening in a sentence, adverbs are the words that jump in to answer, how did it happen? Where did it happen? And when did it happen? This little table breaks it down perfectly. You have adverbs of manner, which answer how. The clothes are arranged neatly. Then there are adverbs of place, which answer where. I left the radio upstairs. And finally, adverbs of time, which answer when. I'll talk to him tomorrow. How, where, and when. That's the core of it right there. Okay, so we've got the big three down. Now let's expand that toolkit, because there are two more really powerful types of adverbs that add a whole other level of detail. These next two are all about precision. First up, adverbs of frequency. They answer the question, how often? Think words like always, never, or sometimes. Then you've got adverbs of degree. They answer how much or to what extent. These are your intensifiers, words like very or almost. Let's look at some examples. For frequency, check out the difference between Sandy always goes out and we sometimes visit. Both tell us how often. For degree, we learn just how cold the water was. It was extremely cold. And we know exactly how close she is to being done. She's almost finished. It's that little bit of extra detail that makes all the difference. All right, let's get into the one thing about adverbs that trips everybody up, that lie ending. You were probably taught that if a word ends in lie, it's an adverb. Well, it's a little more complicated than that. But don't worry, we're about to make it super clear. First off, the basic rule is true. The most common way to make an adverb is to just take an adjective, like sad, and add ly to the end to get sadly. That's the pattern we all know. So far, so good. And of course, because English loves its little quirks, there are a few spelling rules to keep in mind. If a word ends in Y, like happy, you change it to an I. If it ends in late, like understandable, you swap that for a Y. And if it already ends in L, you just add the ly.
These are just the mechanics, though. The interesting part is next. Okay, so here's where it gets fun. What about the words that don't seem to follow the rules at all? Can some words actually be an adverb and an adjective without changing at all? Yes, absolutely. Let's take the word fast. In this sentence, Carlo is a fast runner. The word fast is describing the noun, runner. That makes it an adjective. But in you need to run fast, the word fast is describing the verb, run. So it's an adverb. The big takeaways here is that it's not about what the word looks like, it's about the job it's doing in the sentence.
Which leads us to the final and most critical question. If some adverbs don't end in ly, does that automatically mean that all words that do end in ly have to be adverbs? And the answer is a big, emphatic no. This is the most common trap of all. Words like lonely, lovely, and ugly all end in ly, but they're adjectives, right? You can talk about a lovely dress or an ugly sweater. In both cases, they're describing nouns, and that's an adjective's job. So, after all these rules and all these exceptions, let's zoom back out. Why should we even care about adverbs? Well, because they are the difference between a plain statement and a powerful story. Check out this quote. That very last word, indeed, is an adverb. Without it, the sentence is nice, but with it, it adds this huge sense of confirmation, of real, heartfelt emotion. It's not just a statement, it becomes a feeling. That one little word changes the whole vibe. So, I want you to think of adverbs as your communication superpowers. They let you add all that juicy detail, the how, where, and when. They let you crank up the meaning with words like very or extremely. And ultimately, they're the tools that let you turn a simple, flat statement into a real story. At the end of the day, a single, carefully chosen word can completely change the tone and meaning of what you're trying to say. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Now that you know their power, how are you going to use adverbs to tell your story?